Hello, and welcome to the first video of the second playlist for the FTC training. As usual, my name is Anton, and I guess not so special guest now, more like common guest now, Raj. Raj, say hi.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Raj.
Yep. His name is still Raj. Has not changed. I guess that's fortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in this video, we will talk about document organization and like just how to do it efficiently, how to do it effectively. So document organization in honestly just CAD in general is very, very important because that dictates how fast your document loads. Um, I don't know, Raj, if you had any problems last season with it, but for FRC, we definitely did have problems with our documents loading really, really slowly last season. Um, and
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, Raj.
we didn't have a problem this season, but as we start to make more and more complex things, I can foretell it to be one.
Yeah, exactly. And especially in an online CADing software like Onshape, organization is definitely key in making sure that your documents load smoothly and fast. So when Onshape takes a really long time to load your document, there's something called like a resource limit exceeded error that pops up. Um, you will probably get really used to it and really really annoyed at it. Um, but yeah, that's basically a kind of how you know that your document is loading really really slowly. So um, a way you can check how fast your document loads. Some context. This my mom kind of asked me to make her a cookbook holder, so I made her a cookbook holder, and I thought this was a good idea of an organization. Anyway, so the how you check how much a document takes to load in Onshape is you go into your Part Studio and you click here, shows you regeneration times. So this actually shows you how much each feature in your feature list takes to load. So as you can see, my highest feature right now is this derived parts feature, which we will like you probably don't know what it is right now. Feel free to explore, but we will definitely get much more used to it later on. It's taking 188 milliseconds to load each time I open this Part Studio tab. And if you want to actually check it for the whole doc, you go to this sidebar over here and you press on performance, and it takes you total regeneration time 357 milliseconds. The general rule for generation time is less than 10 seconds. In last season for FRC, one of our documents was 58 seconds. Yes, 58 seconds, not 5.8 seconds. So you can imagine how painful that was, especially with an FRC robot. And as Rosh said, with a more complicated FTC robot, I'm sure you will also have to make sure that your document loading time is under 10 seconds. Um, Another general rule is to make sure that your features list is less than 250. I think we had like 300 in one of our documents for FRC last season. So definitely do not do that. And we will dive deeper into how to organize your feature list even more later on. And for parts, a general rule is less than 20. There's also something called primary parts, secondary parts, and tertiary parts, which we will dive into later on when we actually start talking about layout sketching and that type of stuff. So, yeah, those are some general rules for regeneration. Raj, do you have any questions?
I have a few questions, but I'll hold them for a little bit later.
Cool. So, before we actually get into reducing how much it takes to for your document to load, I will actually talk about naming standards and just how to visually make your document easy to understand because that is also a very big aspect in CAD. You want to make sure that a random person can go into your document and understand at least like most of the stuff that you did, and like they should be able to edit it. So I'm sure right now, since you've started out, you probably in your feature list have like features listed like sketch 1, sketch 2. So just have like two or three sketches, that's not a problem. But once you have sketch 58, that's when it starts to become a problem. You want to name every single feature in your feature list. That includes planes, that includes fillets, that includes folders. Well, of course, you want to name your folders. That includes sketches. So make sure you don't have any sketch one, extrude one, etc. If you do, and like if you do, make sure you change them again. You can just like during the meeting, if you just are running out of time, you can just change it later. But in your final product, make sure everything is named. Same for parts. You do not want to have part one, part two, part three, because eventually that will lead to part 6538, and that will be a really, really big problem. Another thing, well, as you can see, actually, like this is really good example of naming. And another thing that you noticed that you should have noticed is how I used a lot of folders. These are really, really good for organizing kind of the clutterness of this feature list right here. Because yes, now like let's just say that you renamed all your features. Yes, you renamed all your features, but now you have like 30 or so features in a row, and you have to scroll up and down, and like kind of scour each one to find the feature that you want to make an edit to or that you want to delete. So using folders is really, really important because it lets you organize things by groups. And that also kind of helps you name your features a lot easier. Because, for example, I named this folder the base folder. So it's this thing, I guess. So I guess the book sits in here. And now what I do is I don't have to put like, for example, side holder, layout base holder, or like uh, base holder, or like pin base holder, something like that. I don't have to add base holder onto like every single feature, because since it's under the base holder folder, I can just basically name this, for example, layout, right? Without the base holder, I can name this as like, I don't know, original extrude or something, right? Pin, like big edges, small, big edges, pin edges. Again, it really helps declutter stuff. You can also um, put folders into folders, which is really nice. The limit is 3 in Onshape, but if you really need to, like, there's no problem with doing that. I actually highly recommend to do it. But it's if it's a problem if it's to the point where your folders contain like two features or something, like that's going too far. It's not worth it for two features. So yeah, folders are a really big thing in Onshape. Sadly, you cannot put parts into folders. I do not know why, and I am very, very annoyed at that. But it is what it is. Folders also exist in this tab right here, as I talked about in the previous playlist. All you need to do is you create folder here, and then rename it to something, and then drag things inside the folder and call it a day. You can also put folders into folders here, but I think the limit is also 3. So yeah, please use folders. Raj, you good so far?
I had a question. So let's say if like you're working on whatever in the part studio, and for a certain part name, let's say a pin, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to sketch something and then extrude it and then use some other tool maybe on it as well. How exactly do you name those certain edits in your um, features
So
list?
so these are edits that don't necessarily make the original part, like they actually just kind of cut up material away or something, right? Or am I misinterpreting?
Sure, or they like, yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, what I actually did, like, so for example, if they remove material, you can say page like removal, right? And then you can say in which specific spot. So I would actually kind of I could put this at like flap removal edges or something like that. Um, like you don't have to get too intricate with the naming, because anyone can easily just hover over it. Um, So for edits to actual parts, I would honestly just name them as removal or addition or I don't know. Fillets are pretty straightforward. You just name it like fillet and then put like a spot where the edit happens. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool. Good question. Um, all right, moving on. So something that you guys probably don't know, if you do know, congrats, is the rollback bar. This is where your sketches get inserted. Your or well anything any edit to your part gets inserted. They always get inserted before the rollback bar. So for example, if I create a sketch on this plane, notice how it gets inserted before the rollback bar. Now you can actually move the rollback bar, which is really useful in organizing stuff because for example, let's just say I want to make a sketch that goes into the base holder um, a folder. So I like make a sketch here. I rename it to like center center hole, and I make a hole for some reason in the center here that I plan to extrude. To put this into this folder, I have to click on it and like put it right here, right? Make sure that it does the weird thing where it's kind of merged into the folder, and that's it. I know this seems like very like an intricate detail, but trust me, it saves so much time. What you can do instead is with the rollback bar, you can drag the rollback bar inside of the folder. And now if I create the sketch, notice how the sketch is created inside like of the folder because it's the sketch or any well, yeah, so the sketch is created behind the rollback bar and like any other edit is created behind the rollback bar. This is very useful if you're planning on creating a lot of features inside of a folder, especially because you don't have to like stop, drag the feature inside of the folder, and then make edits to the feature. So yes, very useful with the rollback bar. It also suppresses everything after it. What suppress means is kind of like hiding. You can hide stuff in Onshape. What suppress does is it kind of acts as hide for features, which is pretty useful, and we will actually talk about that later. Moving on. So, for parts, organizing parts, as I said, there are no folders, but you can still organize them. Um, you can easily hide parts, right? That is actually the book that mounts onto the stand. Hiding parts is pretty useful because let's just say I want to make a sketch on this face right here. This book is in the way, so I just kind of hide it and I call it a day. The shortcut for hiding, by the way, is Y. Shortcuts are really important in Onshape, so please get used to them. And as always, keyboard shortcuts are over here. So yeah. So again, hiding stuff is really useful. And there's also isolate. Let's just say I want to isolate this stand on the back. What you can do is you can go to this stand in the parts list and right click on it and then press isolate. What it does is it makes this stand stand out, no pun intended, and makes all other parts transparent. And you can make change the transparency of the other parts and yeah, very useful. You can also do this for multiple parts. So for example, I can isolate both of these parts. Shortcut is Shift I. And well, there's also transparent, but I don't really use transparent a lot. I'm not sure what the keybind is. You can easily search it up again over here, and it makes stuff transparent. Pretty straightforward. So yeah, isolate. It's very useful for showing people parts in very confined areas or in areas that are kind of hard to get a view. So like if I want to show Raj like this part of my stand, I press on the stand, Shift I, and now I can actually show him the pivot and how everything kind of works, which is pretty useful, especially in a very confined area like a robot. So I mentioned suppress before, and it's very useful because I would actually recommend to suppress features instead of deleting them. So for example, here you can see that this whole folder I do not need because it acted as a test. And since I do not need it, I could delete it. But let's just say I want to test something else using whatever is inside of this folder. So I can unsuppress it, make some changes, 3D print it, and then suppress it once again. This is like if you have multiple, this is very useful if you have multiple ideas for one part. So if I want to make multiple edits to, for example, this stand, but I do not know which one to use, I can make those three edits here and then show them to my mentor or my lead, and then suppress the ones that we do not want to use. And then if we do want to come back to them, I can easily unsuppress them instead of scouring the versions and history for it's basically a whole mess. So again, suppressing is really useful and could be used as an alternative for deleting stuff. Of course, if you like know for certain that a feature is useless to you, yes, please delete it because that does reduce regeneration time. But suppress also does reduce regeneration time, and deleting also declutter stuff a lot. So yeah, that that's suppress, pretty useful. Now, if you haven't noticed, I when I created this stand, I actually kind of created it like it would be assembled, right? This is exactly how it would be in real life. This connects a bit to layout sketching, so this might be hard for you guys right now, but I just wanted to mention it. In the part studio, you want to create parts as they are in real life. So, for example, if you're making, I don't know, a fan, right? Um, I'll just quickly sketch out something. So, from the right view, let's just say this is your body, right? And then here's like the shaft that the actual blades stand on. And then let's just say that these are the fans, right? They're pretty thick fans, but again, you get the idea, right? I would make my parts exactly like how it is in real life. So the fan would be right here on top of everything. The shaft would be connected to the fan, and the body of the fan would be connected to the floor. What I would not do is, I would not, if I can delete all this, I would not create the shaft separate to the body, and I would not create the fan separate to everything else, because then this becomes a pain when inserting into the assembly, which I will always also talk about later. But yeah, just note for future, for I guess anything that you create in the future, make stuff in the part studio as they are in real life. Very useful, especially when making a robot. So for tab bar organization, this is also really important. Again, organization as a whole in CAD is really important. You should use the tab manager, because what will like inevitably happen is when you import something from, for example, GoBuilda, which is your COTS provider. COTS is common off the shelf, and then parts. So kind of like when you import stuff from GoBuilda, what usually happens is you get like 1,000 tabs that pop up here, and it will be really annoying to organize all of them. Tab Manager exists for exactly that, because you can easily just select on multiple tabs by pressing and holding Shift, and then going down to like the very last tab you want to make in your selection, and then pressing on it, and then everything in between, including the last tab, is selected. And now you can easily just drag them and drop them in other folders. Like I just dropped them in V3, I can drop them easily in V2, I can put them back in V, or I could put them in V1, I can put them back in V2, I can make them their own separate thing. Again, Tab Manager is really useful, right? So please utilize it and don't waste your time by just dragging and dropping tabs into folders in the Tab Manager. Raj, any questions at all about anything I just talked about?
Yeah, I guess I have a quick question relates a little bit more to the assembly, so I guess you can touch on it a little bit later. For certain parts, sometimes I guess some of them don't contribute too much to the CAD, yet they will obviously increase the rendering time. So how do you choose which parts you may not include just to make it more efficient.
There could be parts inside of like a component that gets imported. What you could try to do is you can kind of try to hide the outer shell of that component and then hide everything inside. That also greatly reduces the time. I would leave the max dimensions of the component and delete everything else. But
Got it. Okay.
anything else?
No, that's all from me.
All right. I That's all from me as well for this video.